Maya Bennett was already having a very bad morning, and it wasn't even 6:30 yet. Her alarm had betrayed her. Her coffee had betrayed her. The left wheel on one of the collection bins had apparently developed personal issues with forward movement. And somewhere beneath the heavy New York summer heat, Maya's patience had quietly packed a suitcase and left. She stood beside the sanitation truck in her deep teal work uniform, reflective strips catching the early sunlight as she pulled on a fresh pair of gloves. Her curvy figure filled the practical uniform beautifully, though at that particular moment, Maya cared considerably less about looking beautiful, and considerably more about surviving the next 7 blocks without arguing with an inanimate object. Behind her, the garbage truck rumbled. Beside her, Tessa Morgan took one look at Maya's expression and wisely decided that conversation was a luxury best postponed. Maya grabbed another bag, lifted it, tossed it into the truck. Then she looked ahead and stopped. Number 418 Moretti Avenue. The mansion. Again. Of course. The enormous stone residence sat behind tall wrought-iron gates, polished black railings, and manicured hedges that looked as though each leaf had signed an employment contract. Everything about the property screamed money, quiet money, old money, the sort of money that probably had money working for it. And yet, whoever lived inside that palace had apparently never learned the extraordinarily complicated municipal concept known as put the trash where it belongs. Maya stared at 6 enormous black garbage bags sitting several yards away from the official collection point. She slowly closed her eyes, opened them. The bags were still there, unfortunately. Tessa leaned against the truck. Maya pointed toward the mansion. Again. Tessa followed her finger, then immediately began laughing. Maya didn't. This was the 3rd time that month. The residents of number 418 had somehow concluded that sanitation workers possessed supernatural powers. Because apparently the city issued every employee a uniform, gloves, and the ability to teleport 30-pound garbage bags across private driveways. Maya marched toward the gate. She grabbed the first bag, then the second, then attempted the third. It barely moved. She frowned, tugged again. Nothing. Whatever was inside weighed enough to qualify for voting rights. Maya straightened slowly, and that was when she noticed him. A man stood several feet away near the open gates. Tall, broad, very broad. Brown, long-sleeved shirt fitted across shoulders that seemed personally offended by narrow doorways. Dark trousers. Expensive watch. Dark hair neatly styled. Strong jaw. Expression calm enough to be irritating. He appeared to be somewhere in his mid-30s, and judging from the way he stood there as though the entire street had been constructed for his convenience, Maya immediately categorized him. Rich, handsome, probably useless, a dangerous combination. He was watching her. Maya looked at the heavy bag, then at him, then at his perfectly functioning arms. The man raised one eyebrow. Maya raised hers higher. He continued standing there. That settled it. She pointed directly at him. "You?" The stranger glanced behind himself. Maya almost admired the audacity. There was absolutely nobody behind him. She pointed again. "Yes, you." The man's gaze returned to her. Something almost amused flickered across his face. Maya pointed toward the enormous garbage bag. "Grab that bag." Silence. The street seemed to become suspiciously quiet. Even Tessa stopped moving. The stranger looked at the bag, then at Maya, then back at the bag. His expression suggested that throughout his entire adult life, nobody had ever pointed at garbage, then pointed at him, and expected the relationship between those two things to become his responsibility. His mouth curved slightly, not a smile, something smaller, more dangerous, more amused. Seriously? Maya stared at him. The heat was already crawling underneath her collar. Her shift had started before sunrise. Her coffee was somewhere on 3rd Avenue after a tragic lid malfunction. And this ridiculously handsome man was apparently requesting a philosophical debate about lifting one bag.
Oh no.
Maya rested one gloved hand against her hip.
I woke up at 5 this morning, specifically because directing handsome strangers toward garbage is my favorite hobby. The man's eyebrows lifted.
Tessa made a strangled sound behind her. Maya ignored it. She pointed toward the bag again. You have 2 arms. His eyes dropped briefly toward his arms. The bag has handles. His gaze moved toward the handles. Maya gave him a patient smile, usually reserved for people who had just discovered gravity. I believe in you. For several seconds, he simply stared at her. Maya stared back. Neither moved. There was something strange about him, something beyond the expensive watch, beyond the mansion, beyond the quiet confidence. He didn't have the nervous energy wealthy men sometimes carried when someone challenged them. He didn't seem offended either. He looked entertained, as though Maya had somehow become the most interesting thing he had seen all week. Then, to Tessa's absolute astonishment, the stranger walked toward the garbage bag, bent, grabbed it, and lifted it easily. Maya blinked. Well, at least the muscles weren't decorative. See? She nodded approvingly. Personal growth. The man turned his head slowly toward her. That almost smile appeared again. Maya immediately regretted noticing how attractive it made him, because handsome men were trouble. Handsome rich men were expensive trouble. And handsome rich men who looked at you like they had just discovered a new hobby were absolutely none of Maya Bennett's business. She turned away. Collection point is beside the truck. The stranger actually followed her, carrying the garbage. Tessa's mouth fell open. Maya passed her. Close your mouth. Tessa whispered. Do you know who? No. Maya grabbed another bag. And unless he's secretly the mayor, he can survive helping. Tessa looked toward the man, then toward Maya, then apparently decided that whatever was about to happen, she wanted front row seats. The stranger placed the bag beside the truck. Maya inspected his work. He noticed. You're checking? Yes. My performance? Yes. And? Maya tilted her head. Acceptable. That did it. The man laughed. Quietly. Once. A rich, low sound that disappeared almost immediately. But Maya heard it. So did Tessa. And judging by Tessa's expression, apparently something about this man laughing was unusual. Maya wasn't interested enough to investigate. At least, that was what she told herself. She turned toward the remaining bags. Since you're already emotionally invested, the stranger looked at them. There's more? Maya stared. You thought wealthy people produce one bag of garbage. He glanced toward the mansion. Apparently we're wasteful. We? Maya paused. The man didn't answer. Interesting. She narrowed her eyes. Before she could ask what exactly we meant, a low engine sound approached from behind the gate. A black SUV rolled slowly down the private driveway. Then another. Maya glanced toward them. Tinted windows, polished bodywork. Expensive, of course. Everything surrounding this mansion seemed to have a personal relationship with luxury. The first SUV stopped. 3 men stepped out. Dark suits. Serious expressions. The kind of men who somehow looked overdressed and dangerous at 6:30 in the morning. The first man, tall, sharp-featured, carrying the exhausted expression of someone whose job involved preventing disasters, looked toward the stranger. Then, he stopped. His eyes lowered. Straight to the garbage bag currently hanging from the stranger's hand. His expression changed. Barely. But Maya caught it. The second man stepped out behind him. He also looked. His eyes widened. He removed his sunglasses, looked again, put them back on, then removed them again. Maya frowned. Perhaps rich people had never witnessed manual labor before. She turned toward the suited men. Perfect. All 3 looked at her. Maya pointed toward the remaining bags. Reinforcements. Tessa made another strangled sound. The man with the sunglasses stared at Maya, then at the stranger, then at Maya again. His lips pressed together violently. He was trying not to laugh. Why? Maya had no idea. The serious one looked as though his morning had abruptly become much more complicated. He cleared his throat. "Boss." The stranger's gaze snapped toward him. Just once. That was all. One look, and the suited man stopped talking. Maya noticed. Her eyes moved slowly between them. Boss? Maybe he managed the property. Fine. That made sense. The handsome stranger was probably the estate manager, or head of security, or personal trainer to people with too many bathrooms. Whatever. Maya pointed toward one bag. "You can take that one." The man with sunglasses made a choking sound. Maya frowned. "Are you okay?" He turned his face away immediately. "Yes. You don't sound okay. I'm having a moment." The stranger carrying the garbage bag stared at him. The man's moment ended. Instantly, Maya became more suspicious. She looked at the serious man. "You?" He straightened. "Me? That bag." There was a pause. The stranger beside her lowered his head slightly. Maya could have sworn he was hiding another smile. The serious man looked at him. Silence. Then, very slowly, the stranger nodded. The suited man stared at the garbage. Maya watched what appeared to be an entire internal crisis happen behind his eyes. Eventually, he picked it up. Tessa turned away. Her shoulders started shaking. Maya narrowed her eyes. What was wrong with everybody this morning? Within 30 seconds, one of New York's most feared Mafia bosses, his consigliere, and one armed security officer were assisting municipal sanitation workers with garbage collection, and Maya Bennett had no idea. Lorenzo Moretti had been threatened by politicians, investigated by federal agents, betrayed by allies, challenged by men with considerably more courage than common sense. Nobody, absolutely nobody, had ever inspected his garbage-carrying technique, until Maya. She watched him lift another bag. "Careful." Lorenzo turned toward her. "What? Your grip." "My grip?" "You're holding it wrong." There was a horrifying silence behind him. Marco slowly closed his eyes. Nico stared toward the sky, as though requesting divine intervention. Lorenzo looked down at his hand, then at Maya. "There is a wrong way to hold garbage?" Maya stepped closer. Far too close. Close enough to catch the subtle scent of expensive cologne beneath the morning air. Close enough to notice that his eyes were darker than she had first realized. Close enough for Lorenzo to suddenly forget that Marco and Nico existed. Maya adjusted his hand on the tied section of the bag. "Here!" Her gloved fingers briefly touched his. "Otherwise it tears." She stepped back. Lorenzo remained still for half a second. Maya completely missed the way his gaze followed her. Marco didn't. Nico definitely didn't. Nico's eyebrows rose. Marco elbowed him. Hard. Maya turned toward the truck again. "All right. We're done." She pulled off one glove. The stranger was still standing there, watching her. Maya looked at him. "What? What? You're staring." "So are you." I asked first. Lorenzo's mouth moved at one corner. "You always this friendly?" "Only before 7. And after 7. I charge extra." Nico coughed. Marco looked ready to resign. Maya checked her route sheet. She had wasted enough time at mansion number 4118. She started toward the truck. Then Lorenzo spoke behind her. "Maya!" She stopped, slowly turned. Her name badge. Of course. For one ridiculous second she'd wondered how he knew her name. She looked down at it, then back at him. He knew exactly what she had thought. That smirk returned. Annoying man. "What?" He nodded toward the mansion. "The bags will be in the correct place tomorrow." Maya considered him. "Good." Then pointed toward him. "See? You're trainable." Nico made a sound so violent he had to pretend it was a cough. Lorenzo turned his head. Nico immediately became fascinated by the SUV tire. Maya climbed onto the back step of the sanitation truck. Tessa joined her. The vehicle began rolling forward. Maya looked back once. Just once. Lorenzo Moretti stood outside the gates. Brown shirt rolled at the forearms. Hands relaxed at his sides. 3 dangerous men surrounding him, all of them watching the sanitation truck disappear down the street. But only Lorenzo was smiling. Maya looked away. Tessa waited exactly 3 seconds. Then, "Have you completely lost your mind?" Maya frowned. "What?" Tessa stared at her. "You just ordered that man around like he was an unpaid intern. He was standing there. That is your defense?" "He helped." Maya. "What?" Tessa lowered her voice dramatically. "Do you know who lives in that mansion?" Maya shrugged. "A man who needs better waste management habits." Tessa stared at her. Maya stared back. Then Tessa started laughing so hard she had to grab the truck rail. Maya rolled her eyes. Whatever secret New York's wealthy people found amusing, she had 7 more blocks to collect. She had class that evening, and she had absolutely no intention of wasting another thought on the handsome stranger from number 418. Unfortunately, at exactly 6:14 the following morning, Maya's sanitation truck rounded the corner, and she saw him, standing outside the mansion, again, except this time. Lorenzo Moretti wasn't beside the garbage. He was holding 2 cups of coffee. Maya stared through the windshield. Tessa slowly turned toward her. Oh, this is going to be good. Maya ignored her, or tried to, because Lorenzo looked directly at the approaching truck, lifted 1 coffee, and smirked. Maya's stomach did something deeply inconvenient. She narrowed her eyes. No, absolutely not. There were approximately 8 million people in New York City. There was no logical reason the one man she had humiliated before breakfast yesterday should be standing outside waiting for her today. And Maya Bennett was about to discover something far more dangerous than the fact that Lorenzo Moretti was a mafia boss. The terrifying man who made entire rooms fall silent was beginning to enjoy being ordered around by her. And Lorenzo had already decided that one morning with Maya Bennett was nowhere near enough. At exactly 6:14 the following morning, Maya Bennett's sanitation truck turned onto Moretti Avenue. And there he was. Again. Lorenzo Moretti stood outside the enormous iron gates, as though 6:14 in the morning was a perfectly reasonable time for an alleged mafia boss to admire municipal infrastructure. Except today, he wasn't holding garbage. He was holding coffee. 2 cups. Maya stared through the windshield. Tessa stared at Maya. Maya continued staring through the windshield. Tessa slowly grinned. "Oh." Maya immediately pointed at her. "Don't. I haven't said anything. You're about to." Tessa's grin widened. Maya turned toward the window. Lorenzo lifted 1 cup slightly. That smirk returned. The infuriating one. The one that made him look like he knew something Maya didn't, which was impossible. Maya knew plenty. She knew waste regulations. She knew which apartment buildings illegally dumped furniture after midnight. She knew that anybody who claimed a garbage bag was mostly empty was usually lying. And she knew, with absolute certainty, that Lorenzo Moretti had no legitimate reason to be standing outside his mansion holding 2 coffees before sunrise. The truck stopped. Maya climbed down. Lorenzo watched her approach. She looked at him, then at the coffee, then toward the neatly arranged garbage bags. They were positioned perfectly beside the curb. Proper spacing, proper ties, nothing leaking, nothing obstructing the pedestrian walkway. Maya gave an approving nod. "Well," Lorenzo waited. "Look at you." His eyebrow lifted. "1 day of training, and you're already improving." Behind Maya, Tessa immediately turned away. Lorenzo looked toward the bags, then back at Maya. "I barely slept." Maya nodded gravely. "I understand. Personal growth can be exhausting." The corner of his mouth twitched. Then he extended the second coffee. Maya stared at it suspiciously. "What is that?" "Coffee. I can see that." I was beginning to worry. Maya's eyes narrowed. Lorenzo's face remained perfectly calm. That was the problem with him. He could say something ridiculous while looking like he was negotiating an international treaty. Maya crossed her arms. How do you know what I drink? Lorenzo took a slow sip from his own cup. I don't. Maya looked at the cup again. So you guessed? I asked. WHO. Lorenzo glanced past her. Maya turned. Tessa was suddenly extremely fascinated by a wheel on the sanitation truck. Maya's mouth opened. Tessa refused to make eye contact. You told him? Tessa finally looked up. He asked politely. Maya stared at her. And your loyalty costs one polite question. He's very tall. That is not a defense. It was persuasive. Maya closed her eyes. Lorenzo was enjoying this. She could feel it. She turned back toward him. You interrogated my co-worker. I asked whether you take sugar. That is exactly how interrogation starts. Lorenzo extended the coffee again. Maya hesitated, then took it. One sip. Her expression betrayed her before she could stop it. Perfect. Exactly the right amount of milk. Exactly one sugar. Strong enough to resurrect someone who had made questionable life decisions. Lorenzo noticed. Of course he noticed. Acceptable? He asked. Maya looked him directly in the eye. Don't get ambitious. That morning, Lorenzo Moretti discovered something deeply inconvenient. Maya Bennett was even more entertaining when caffeinated, and Maya discovered something considerably more dangerous. The frightening man who controlled half the legitimate transport contracts in that part of the city remembered details, small ones, which was unacceptable, because handsome men were manageable. Rich men were manageable. Even mafia bosses were apparently manageable if one possessed sufficient confidence and a functioning sanitation schedule. But a handsome mafia boss who remembered how she took her coffee, that was different. Maya moved toward the garbage. Lorenzo followed. She noticed. Why are you following me? I'm standing outside my house. You've been standing outside your house for 20 minutes. How would you know? Maya stopped. Lorenzo's smirk deepened. She realized the trap too late. Tessa whispered behind her. He got you. Maya pointed at the bags. Take that one. Lorenzo stared. You're giving me work. You wanted to stand outside. I own the property. Congratulations. Today you also own the responsibility. Lorenzo glanced toward Marco. Marco had just stepped through the gates holding a tablet. He immediately stopped walking. There was Lorenzo. Again, being assigned garbage. Marco looked at the tablet, looked at Lorenzo, looked at Maya, then calmly turned around. Lorenzo's voice stopped him. Marco. Marco froze. Yes, boss? Come back. Marco returned with the careful expression of a man approaching an unexploded device. Maya smiled. Morning. Good morning, Miss Bennett. She pointed toward another bag. Marco's jaw tightened. Lorenzo stared at him. For one glorious second, Marco looked betrayed. Then he picked up the bag. Maya nodded approvingly. See? Teamwork. Nico appeared near the gates. Saw what was happening. Immediately attempted to retreat. Maya spotted him. You too. Nico stopped. Slowly turned. Pointed at himself. Maya nodded. Nico looked at Lorenzo. Lorenzo looked back. Neither spoke. Then Nico sighed. Which one? Tessa leaned against the truck. Absolutely delighted. Maya's morning had officially become the most entertaining show available before sunrise. And it continued. Day after day. At first, Lorenzo claimed his appearances were coincidental. Monday, he was checking the gate. Tuesday, he was expecting a delivery. Wednesday, he had apparently developed a profound concern regarding hedge maintenance. Thursday, Maya caught him standing beside the curb with coffee before the landscapers had arrived. She looked at him. Lorenzo looked at her. Maya checked her watch. 6:09. She looked back at him. What? I didn't say anything. You're thinking loudly. Maya sipped her coffee. I was wondering whether you've started sleeping beside the bins. Lorenzo's face remained straight. The east wing gets cold. Maya nearly choked. From behind him, Nico turned away. Marco rubbed the bridge of his nose. This was becoming a problem. Lorenzo Moretti had spent most of his adult life cultivating a reputation built on silence. Men feared his stillness. Enemies studied his expressions. Business partners measured every word around him. Then, Maya Bennett arrived every morning, wearing reflective stripes, and treated him like an unusually attractive neighborhood nuisance. Worse, Lorenzo liked it. His staff noticed. The housekeeper noticed. His driver noticed. Even the gardener noticed. By the second week, the entire Moretti estate knew one important rule. At approximately 6:10 every morning, do not schedule Lorenzo for anything. Nobody officially explained why. Nobody needed to. One afternoon, Marco entered Lorenzo's office, carrying 3 financial folders. Lorenzo was standing near the window. Marco placed the folders down. The Milano shipment arrives Wednesday. Lorenzo nodded. The courage to start is the first step to succeed. Another nod. And municipal collection on Moretti Avenue is delayed 15 minutes tomorrow due to construction. Lorenzo turned. Marco's expression remained perfectly neutral. Lorenzo stared at him. Marco stared back. Neither spoke. Finally, Lorenzo asked quietly, "Why would I care?" Marco nodded. Of course. He collected his tablet and walked toward the door. Lorenzo waited. Marco reached the handle. 15 minutes? Marco didn't turn. Yes, boss. Which direction is the detour? Marco smiled where Lorenzo couldn't see it. The Mafia boss was done. Completely. He simply hadn't received the announcement yet. Maya remained blissfully unaware. Mostly. She knew Lorenzo was flirting. She wasn't an idiot. But there was something about the situation that made her cautious. Lorenzo's world was enormous. His mansion occupied nearly half the block. Black vehicles came and went throughout the day. Men lowered their voices when he passed. Phones stopped ringing because people literally silenced them when he entered rooms. Maya's world was different. Rent, tuition, early shifts, night classes, cheap groceries, work boots that needed replacing. A mother who still called every Sunday to ask whether Maya had finally found a sensible office job. They shouldn't have fit, which made the fact that they did extremely inconvenient. One morning, Lorenzo watched Maya lift an overfilled recycling container. "You shouldn't carry that alone." She looked at him. "You're saying that because I'm a woman?" "No." "Because I'm plus size?" "No." "Because you're secretly worried?" Lorenzo paused. Maya smiled. "Ah." He frowned. "What?" That hesitation. There was no hesitation. It had its own zip code. Lorenzo took the container from her. Maya let him. Mostly because arguing while somebody else carried something heavy was poor resource management. As they walked, Lorenzo asked about the textbooks visible inside Maya's open work bag. Environmental systems, waste stream analysis, municipal logistics. He stopped. "You're studying environmental management?" Maya glanced at him, surprised. "A little." There it was. Her walls came up immediately. Lorenzo saw it happen. Maya's expression cooled. Why? Lorenzo knew he'd stepped onto dangerous ground. Marco, standing 15 feet away, also knew. Nico knew. A passing pigeon probably knew. Maya crossed her arms. "Go ahead." Lorenzo frowned. "Go ahead with what?" "The speech." "What speech?" "The one where you explain that somebody who spends mornings collecting garbage doesn't look like somebody who attends university at night." Lorenzo's face changed. Not offended, understanding. Maya continued before he could respond. "I've heard versions of it before, usually from people who have never worked a physically demanding day in their lives." Lorenzo lowered the container. He didn't interrupt. That mattered. Maya explained that sanitation paid better than many entry-level internships. The schedule allowed her to attend evening classes, and more importantly, she actually respected the work. Every single morning, taught her something about how cities function, what neighborhoods recycled, which businesses cheated, where waste accumulated, how wealthy areas hid their excess, how poorer areas paid for infrastructure failures they didn't create. By the time she finished, Lorenzo was no longer amused. He was impressed, deeply. Maya misread his silence. "See? This is why I don't discuss it. I wasn't judging you." She paused. Lorenzo continued quietly. "I was wondering why somebody with your brain hasn't been hired by half the environmental firms in Manhattan." That landed differently. Maya looked at him. He meant it. No pity, no condescension, no charming rich man performance. Just respect. And fine. That was far more dangerous than flirting. Maya looked away first. Still holding that container wrong. Lorenzo glanced down. A smile threatened. "Of course I am." Their mornings changed after that. The teasing remained, but something warmer moved beneath it. Lorenzo started asking about her classes. Maya started asking about his legitimate businesses. He discovered she could explain waste processing economics while eating a breakfast sandwich in 3 bites. She discovered Lorenzo understood infrastructure contracts surprisingly well. He wasn't merely wealthy, he was frighteningly intelligent, which Maya found irritating because arrogance was easier to resist when it wasn't backed by competence. Then, 3 weeks after their first meeting, Maya noticed something. It happened 2 streets away from the Moretti mansion. A small industrial property sat behind a brick wall. It belonged to Moretti Urban Logistics, one of Lorenzo's legitimate companies. Maya knew the building. She knew its normal waste profile. Mostly cardboard, packaging, office refuse, occasional damaged pallets. That morning, there were 6 heavy black contractor bags. Wrong material, wrong tags. Wrong pickup day. Maya slowed. Tessa noticed. "What?" Maya stared. "Those weren't here yesterday." "So?" "They're commercial contractor bags." Tessa shrugged. Maya stepped closer. The municipal labels had been attached incorrectly. The date was wrong. One barcode had been partially torn away. Maya frowned. Someone had wanted the bags collected without attracting attention. She looked toward the building. Nothing moved. Then she heard a car door close. Maya turned. Across the street, a dark sedan was parked beneath a tree. A man sat behind the wheel, watching. The second Maya looked directly toward him. The sedan pulled away. Tessa stopped smiling. Maya stared after it. Something cold settled beneath the morning heat. Then she looked back at the bags. For the first time since meeting Lorenzo Moretti, garbage stopped being funny, because Maya Bennett knew waste, and something about those bags was wrong. Maya told herself she was imagining things. That lasted approximately 7 minutes. Then she found the same type of contractor bag 3 blocks later. Different property. Same incorrect municipal label. Same strange weight. Same deliberate placement. Maya crouched beside it. Tessa hovered nearby. "You're doing the thing." Maya looked up. "What thing?" "The face." "What face?" "The face you make when somebody mixes cardboard with food waste." Maya frowned. "I don't have a face." "You absolutely have a face." Maya looked back at the bag. She didn't touch it. That mattered. Sanitation workers learned quickly that curiosity and unidentified industrial waste were not an ideal combination. She photographed the exterior label, recorded the address, then finished her route. But she kept thinking about it. All day. Through lunch. Through her afternoon nap. Through 2 hours of class. And unfortunately, through Lorenzo, the next morning, he was waiting again. Maya stepped down from the truck. Lorenzo held out coffee. She took it automatically. He stared. "What?" "You didn't interrogate me. I'm tired. Should I be concerned?" "Deeply." Lorenzo smiled. Maya looked toward the garbage bags. All properly positioned. Then toward him. "I need to ask you something." The smile vanished. Not entirely, but enough. Lorenzo heard the difference in her tone. Maya showed him the photograph. He studied it. His expression changed immediately. Small, controlled. But Maya noticed. What? Where was this? What? She gave him the address. Lorenzo looked again, his voice lowered. That building belongs to one of my companies. I know. His eyes lifted. You know? I collect your garbage, Lorenzo. I know more about your properties than some of your accountants. From behind him, Marco appeared. Maya's timing remained impeccable. Lorenzo handed him the phone. Marco examined the picture. His face tightened. Maya noticed that too. What is it? Marco glanced at Lorenzo. Lorenzo answered. Probably nothing. Maya stared. Lorenzo stared back. She slowly extended her hand. Give me my phone. He did. Maya slipped it into her pocket. Whenever somebody says, probably nothing while making noth, that face, it's something. Lorenzo almost smiled. Almost. Instead, he asked whether she'd seen anything else. Maya mentioned the sedan, wrong pickup date, duplicate bags, torn barcode. Lorenzo listened without interrupting. That was something Maya was beginning to notice. He listened, not the performative listening powerful men did while waiting for their turn to speak. Actual attention. When she finished, Lorenzo looked toward Marco. Check it. Marco nodded. Then Maya pointed at both men. And don't do that thing. Lorenzo frowned. What thing? The mysterious, rich man thing, where you decide I shouldn't know what happens next because you're protecting me from information. Marco looked downward. Lorenzo slowly looked back at Maya. I wasn't planning to. Good. She started walking toward the truck. Lorenzo called after her. Maya. She turned. Don't investigate this yourself. She stared. Lorenzo's face was serious. Cold now. The easy teasing gone. For one brief second, Maya saw the other man. The one people whispered about. The one who could make 3 suited guards stop talking with a single look. She should have been frightened. Instead, she became annoyed. I wasn't planning to crawl inside a dumpster with a magnifying glass. Lorenzo's jaw flexed. Good. But now that you've specifically told me not to, Maya, she smiled sweetly. I'll see you tomorrow. Then she walked away. Lorenzo watched her climb onto the truck. Marco stood beside him. Silence. Then Marco sighed. She is going to investigate. Yes. Are you going to stop her? Lorenzo watched the truck disappear. No. Marco looked surprised. Lorenzo added, I am going to make sure she doesn't realize we're watching her. Marco looked toward him. Boss. She noticed Nico hiding behind a florist van from half a block away. Lorenzo's expression darkened. Then send someone better. Marco hesitated. Nico heard that. From behind a parked SUV, Nico's wounded voice floated toward them. I did. Lorenzo ignored him. The investigation began quietly. Marco discovered that the contractor bags had been logged as destroyed packaging waste, but the weights didn't match. The pickup manifests had been altered. The authorization codes belonged to a senior Moretti employee, Victor Salerno. Victor managed several legitimate waste and logistics contracts. He had worked for Lorenzo for 8 years. Efficient, reliable, boring. The kind of man nobody remembered 5 minutes after a meeting, which, Lorenzo knew, could be useful or dangerous. Still, nothing proved Victor was guilty. Not yet. Meanwhile, Maya's relationship with Lorenzo became increasingly ridiculous. He appeared nearly every morning, sometimes with coffee, once with breakfast, another time with an umbrella because it was raining. Maya looked at the enormous black umbrella, then at him, then at the sanitation truck. You realize I work outside? Yes. In weather? Yes. In New York? Yes. She stared. Are you planning to follow me down the street holding that? Lorenzo considered it. Would that bother you? Maya's mouth twitched. Your reputation would never recover. He stepped under the rain beside her. What reputation? Maya laughed. That laugh did something to him. Marco saw it. Again. Marco was beginning to witness far too much emotional development for a man whose official duties were supposed to involve security. One morning, Maya's supervisor, Daniel Hayes, stopped beside her truck. Daniel was friendly, athletic, easy smile. Had known Maya for years. He handed her a replacement route sheet and teased her about forgetting to sign a safety form. Maya laughed. Lorenzo watched from across the street. His expression went completely blank. Marco followed his gaze, then slowly looked away. Nico walked up, carrying coffee, stopped, followed Lorenzo's gaze, whispered, "Oh." Lorenzo looked at him. Nico immediately pretended he'd said nothing. Daniel leaned casually against the truck while talking to Maya. Lorenzo's jaw tightened. Marco decided to risk his life. "That's Daniel Hayes." Lorenzo didn't look at him. "I didn't ask. He's her supervisor." "I don't care. He's single." Lorenzo turned. Marco's face remained neutral. Nico suddenly became fascinated by a parking sign. Lorenzo said nothing. That evening, Maya arrived at the Moretti corporate office to drop off copies of the suspicious waste photographs. Daniel happened to drive her. Lorenzo saw them through the lobby windows. Maya climbed out. Daniel said something. She laughed. Lorenzo's face froze. Maya entered the building 5 minutes later. Lorenzo was waiting. She looked at him. "Why do you look like somebody insulted your ancestors?" "I don't. You do." He turned toward the elevator. Maya followed. "What happened?" "Nothing." "Ah." Lorenzo pressed the button. Maya smiled. "There it is again." "What?" "Nothing." The doors opened. They stepped inside. Maya leaned against the wall. "Were you watching me outside?" "No." "Lorenzo." He looked at her. She waited. "Finally, I saw you." "With Daniel." "I don't know his name." "You knew his name yesterday." Silence. Maya's smile grew. "Oh, this is delightful." Lorenzo stared straight ahead. Maya stepped slightly closer. "Are you jealous?" "No." Too fast. Maya's eyes widened with joy. "You are." "I am not." "You answered before I finished." "I knew the question." "Because you're jealous." Lorenzo looked down at her. His expression was severe. His voice came calm. "You enjoy this." "Immensely." The elevator doors opened. Lorenzo walked out. Maya followed him, grinning. "Daniel is very charming." Lorenzo kept walking. "And funny." No response. "And he has excellent teeth." Lorenzo stopped. Maya nearly walked into him. He turned slowly. "Excellent teeth." Maya nodded solemnly. "Very symmetrical." Lorenzo stared at her. Maya lasted 4 seconds, then burst out laughing. He shook his head and walked away. But Maya saw it. That tiny smile. Later that night, they reviewed disposal manifests together. Maya sat beside Lorenzo at the conference table. Marco placed several files down. Victor Salerno's authorization appeared repeatedly. Too repeatedly. Maya frowned. Lorenzo noticed. "What? This is too obvious." Marco looked at her. Maya tapped the page. "If Victor is stealing from you, he's either incredibly stupid, or somebody wants you to think he's incredibly stupid." Lorenzo leaned closer. "How?" "These authorization numbers repeat exactly." Marco frowned. "So? Real operations are messy." Maya flipped pages. Drivers swap routes. Delays happen. Loads change. People make errors. She tapped again. "This is too clean." Lorenzo studied her face. Maya continued. "These records look like somebody created a pattern, specifically so another person would find it." Silence. Marco looked at Lorenzo. Lorenzo looked at Maya. Then Maya noticed how close he was sitting. Their shoulders nearly touched. She turned. Lorenzo was already looking at her. The room changed. Just slightly. The humor faded. Maya felt her pulse jump. Lorenzo's gaze dropped, briefly, toward her mouth. Maya stopped breathing. Then, the conference room door burst open. Nico entered. "Boss, we..." He stopped. looked at Lorenzo, looked at Maya, looked at the 2 inches between them. Oh. Maya immediately leaned back. Lorenzo closed his eyes. Nico slowly reversed toward the door. I can return. Stay, Lorenzo said. Nico looked deeply disappointed. Maya hid a smile. The moment was gone, but something remained behind. Something neither of them could pretend anymore, and Marco noticed that too. Later, while Maya was leaving, Nico passed Marco in the hallway. Were they about to kiss? Marco kept walking. Nico? Yes, if you value your employment. Nico nodded. Understood. 3 steps later. Definitely looked like a kiss. Marco sighed. Behind them, Lorenzo's office door opened. Nico started walking faster. 3 days later, Lorenzo asked Maya to join the investigation formally. Maya said no. Immediately. Lorenzo blinked. Marco blinked. Nico, standing near the wall, looked delighted. Lorenzo sat behind a massive desk in his private office. Maya stood opposite him. You haven't heard the offer. I heard enough. You don't know the compensation. I know my schedule. Lorenzo leaned back. Maya continued. I work mornings. I have class evenings. I sleep whenever capitalism allows. Nico bit his lip. Marco stared at the floor. Lorenzo folded his hands. This would be temporary. So is exhaustion. Doesn't mean I want more. Lorenzo studied her. Most people negotiated with him carefully. Maya negotiated like she was returning a defective toaster. He found it deeply attractive, which was inconvenient. Instead of commanding, he adjusted. What would make it possible? Maya paused. That surprised her. He wasn't pushing. He was Mayaned. Asking. She gave him terms. Afternoons only. No interference with her sanitation job. No mysterious security men following her unless there was an actual threat. Nico looked offended. Maya added, and if somebody is following me, teach them not to hide behind florist vans. Nico's face went red. Lorenzo slowly turned toward him. Nico stared straight ahead. Marco coughed into his fist. Maya wasn't finished. Professional compensation, written agreement, access to records relevant to the investigation, and no treating her like a decorative consultant who was expected to nod while men in suits ignored her. Lorenzo listened, then nodded. Done! Maya narrowed her eyes. Just like that? You're useful. Romantic. I wasn't trying to be. That might be the problem. His smirk returned. By Monday, Maya entered Moretti Urban Logistics wearing a simple blouse, fitted dark trousers, and the expression of a woman prepared to offend at least 3 executives before lunch. The reception area went quiet. People knew who she was. Rumors had traveled. Apparently, the woman from the sanitation route had become a subject of intense corporate curiosity. Some believed she was an investigator. Others believed she had information on Lorenzo. One receptionist was convinced Maya had saved Lorenzo's life. Another thought she was his secret fiancé. Maya learned about that rumor within 40 minutes. She found Lorenzo in his office. Apparently we're engaged. Lorenzo didn't look up from his paperwork. Are we? No. Shame. Maya stared. He continued reading. She walked closer. Was that a joke? No. You're becoming dangerous. I've been told. She placed a folder on his desk. And your recycling system is embarrassing. That made him look up. What? Maya opened the folder. You have 4 buildings, using 3 different labeling systems. Lorenzo frowned. The compliance department handles that. Your compliance department should be arrested. From the doorway, a nervous employee holding a tablet slowly backed away. Lorenzo noticed. Maya didn't. For the next 2 hours, she dismantled years of bad logistical habits. Wrong sorting procedures, expensive disposal contracts, duplicate pickups, unnecessary private hauling. Maya explained everything with brutal clarity. Lorenzo watched her, not because she was beautiful, although she was, not because her sarcasm entertained him, although it did. He watched because Maya understood systems. She saw connections, patterns, waste, weakness. The same qualities that made Lorenzo dangerous in business existed in Maya differently. She didn't dominate rooms. She illuminated them. By afternoon, the department heads had stopped underestimating her, mostly. Then, Renato Falcone entered. Renato was one of Lorenzo's oldest operational advisors, early 40s. Polished, immaculate suit, friendly smile. Too friendly. He had overseen several legitimate transport divisions for nearly a decade. Renato greeted Lorenzo warmly, then looked toward Maya. His eyes flicked over her. Uniform wasn't visible today, but he clearly knew who she was. The sanitation consultant. Maya smiled. The expensive suit consultant. Marco closed his eyes. Lorenzo looked down at his desk. Renato paused, then laughed. Fair enough. His tone remained pleasant, but Maya saw something in his eyes. Calculation, not insult. Assessment. He asked several questions about the route discrepancies. Maya answered carefully. Renato seemed impressed, perhaps too impressed. When he left, Maya watched him. Lorenzo noticed. What? Nothing. Lorenzo smiled faintly. Maya frowned. What? You're doing it now. Doing what? Saying nothing while making face. Maya looked offended. My face is innocent. Your face just accused Renato of 3 felonies. Maya almost laughed. Almost. Instead, she admitted she didn't trust him. Lorenzo's expression remained calm. Why? Too smooth. That isn't evidence. I know. Anything else? Maya thought. He watched my hands. Lorenzo frowned. My hands? My folders? Where I put my phone? That interested him. Maya shrugged. Maybe I'm imagining it. Lorenzo rarely ignored instincts, especially hers. He quietly told Marco to check Renato's recent access logs. The investigation deepened, yet somehow, so did the romance. Late afternoons became evenings. Evenings became shared dinners at the office. Maya began leaving textbooks on Lorenzo's conference table. Lorenzo began keeping her preferred coffee in his private kitchen. Nobody discussed this. Everybody noticed. One Wednesday, Maya fell asleep over a spreadsheet. Lorenzo found her at 8:40 p.m., head resting against one hand, laptop glowing, hair slightly loose around her face. He stopped. For a man surrounded by constant movement, the sight made him still. Maya looked peaceful, exhausted, beautiful. Lorenzo quietly closed the laptop. Maya woke immediately. What are you doing? Saving your keyboard from drool. Her eyes widened. I was not drooling. Of course. She touched her mouth. Dry. Lorenzo smirked. Maya glared. You're horrible. You're tired. I have work. You have food. He gestured toward the small table behind him. Dinner. Nothing extravagant. Pasta, salad, bread. Maya looked at it, then at him. You ordered food. You skipped lunch. I had crackers. That is not lunch. They had cheese. That doesn't improve your argument. Maya stared. He had noticed. Again. That dangerous little detail. Lorenzo never made a show of caring. He simply did. She sat. He joined her. The meal became easy, comfortable. Maya told him about a professor who pronounced her surname incorrectly for an entire semester. Lorenzo told her Nico once locked himself inside a secure panic room for 2 hours because he forgot the exit code. From the hallway, Nico's voice shouted, I was 23. Maya nearly fell off the chair laughing. Lorenzo stared toward the door. How long have you been standing there? Silence. Nico walked away. Maya laughed harder. Lorenzo watched her, and that was when he knew. This wasn't curiosity anymore. This wasn't amusement. He wanted her around. Not temporarily. Not just every morning. Around. The realization should have bothered him. Instead, it felt frighteningly simple. Then the investigation produced its first major breakthrough. A private waste carrier had used Moretti facility codes to authorize 3 after-hours pickups. All signatures belonged to Victor Salerno. Every transaction looked legitimate. Except, Maya noticed one impossible detail. The pickup logs claimed a city disposal transfer at 2:10 a.m. That transfer station closed at midnight. Marco stared. Lorenzo stared. Maya looked between them. What? Marco leaned forward. You're certain? I've worked that route. She pointed to the map. They stopped receiving commercial overflow by 12. Lorenzo's gaze sharpened. So the truck never went there. Maya nodded. Or somebody wants your records to say it did. The trail led toward Victor, but Maya still wasn't convinced. Then, as she left the building that night, she saw the dark sedan again. Same model, same tinted windows, parked across the street. Maya stopped. The vehicle's headlights came on, and slowly, it pulled away. Maya's humor vanished. Someone was watching her. This time, she knew it. Lorenzo was furious. Maya could tell because he became quieter. That was the strange thing about him. Normal people raised their voices when angry. Lorenzo lowered his, which somehow made everybody else lower theirs too. When Maya told him about the sedan, Marco immediately checked cameras. Nico traced plates. Lorenzo stood beside the window, still, cold. Maya watched him, then pointed at him. Don't. He turned. Don't what? That thing. What thing? The Mafia boss thing, where your face goes empty and suddenly 6 people disappear from your calendar. Nico made the mistake of laughing. Lorenzo looked at him. Nico stopped. Maya stepped closer. I am fine. You were followed. I noticed. That doesn't improve the situation. No, it improves my situation, because I'm aware of it. Lorenzo exhaled slowly, then said exactly what Maya knew he would say. You're done with the investigation. Silence. Marco looked at the ceiling. Nico looked toward the floor. Nobody wanted eye contact. Maya stared at Lorenzo. Excuse me? You heard me. Oh, I heard you. Lorenzo's jaw tightened. Maya folded her arms. You recruited me because I understood the system. Yes. You asked me to find what your people missed. Yes. And now that somebody notices I'm useful, you've decided I'm suddenly too fragile. I didn't say fragile. You didn't have to. Lorenzo stepped closer. This isn't about your capability. Then what is it about? You. That stopped her. For half a second. Lorenzo's voice softened. I don't want something happening to you because of me. Maya's anger didn't disappear, but it changed. Because there it was. Underneath the command. Fear. Not fear for himself. For her. Maya took a breath. Then protect me, without erasing me. Lorenzo stared. She continued. You don't get to respect my intelligence when it's useful, and ignore it when you're scared. Silence. Marco's eyebrows lifted slightly. Lorenzo looked at Maya for a long time. Then, he nodded. Fair. Maya blinked. She had prepared 3 additional arguments. Now they were useless. That was quick. You were right. She narrowed her eyes suspiciously. Are you feeling well? A faint smile appeared. I can disagree if you'd prefer. No. Let's preserve this historic moment. Marco quietly walked out. Nico followed. There were certain conversations no employee needed to witness. Lorenzo arranged discreet protection instead. Maya approved the plan, after making Nico promise he would stop hiding behind delivery vans. Nico protested that he had never. Maya stared. Nico sighed. Fine. Life returned to something resembling normal. Or as normal as it could be when the man Maya was slowly falling for employed people whose suits probably cost more than her monthly rent. A few nights later, Lorenzo asked her to dinner. Maya stared at him. Dinner? Yes. Like food? That is generally what happens. She narrowed her eyes. Are you asking me on a date? Lorenzo paused. His confidence finally cracked. Just slightly. Maya saw it. Oh. This was precious. Lorenzo Moretti, Mafia boss, negotiator, terrifying human wall, was nervous. Maya enjoyed 6 full seconds before rescuing him. Yes. His eyes narrowed. I haven't finished asking. You were taking too long. I was not. You absolutely were. He looked irritated. Maya smiled. Where? Lorenzo named a restaurant. Maya's face changed. No. He frowned. No? That place charges $32 for lettuce. It isn't only lettuce. Lorenzo, if somebody places 4 leaves on a white plate and describes the dressing emotionally, I'm leaving. He stared, then laughed. Fine. They ended up at a late-night diner in Queens. Marco nearly objected. Nico definitely objected. Lorenzo ignored both. The diner had cracked red booths, old photographs, coffee that could dissolve regret, and pie displayed beneath glass domes. Maya loved it. Lorenzo clearly did too, although he pretended otherwise. There were no employees hovering, no executives, no marble hallways, no black SUVs visible through tinted glass. Just Maya, Lorenzo, cherry pie, and a waitress named Linda who called Lorenzo honey within 4 minutes. Maya almost cried, laughing. Lorenzo looked genuinely uncertain about how to respond. Linda refilled his coffee. You need more sugar, honey. You look tense. Maya covered her mouth. Lorenzo stared into the cup. Maya whispered, Careful, she outranks you. I've noticed. That dinner changed something. They talked without files between them. Maya told him about growing up in Queens, her mother working double shifts, her father fixing appliances until his hands hurt, how Maya had once believed success meant never doing physical work again, until she realized dignity had nothing to do with office chairs. Lorenzo listened. Then he surprised her. His childhood hadn't been easy either. The Moretti name had wealth, but also pressure, expectation, silence. He had grown up surrounded by men who admired power and feared weakness. By 17, people were already measuring him against his father. By 25, nobody spoke casually around him anymore. Maya looked across the table. That sounds exhausting. Lorenzo gave a small shrug. It's useful. That wasn't what I asked. He met her eyes. There it was again, Maya seeing past the obvious answer. Lorenzo looked down at his coffee. Sometimes, for once, Maya didn't joke. She simply reached across the table. Her fingers touched his. Lorenzo looked at them. Then at her. Maya's heart jumped. Neither moved. Finally, Lorenzo spoke. You know what you wanted from me the first day we met. Maya smiled faintly. Manual labor. You wanted me to carry garbage. You were standing there. I own the house. You keep saying that as though it improves your case. He smiled. Then his expression softened. Everybody wants something from me. Maya's humor faded. Money, favors, protection, access. His thumb moved lightly over her fingers. You wanted help with a garbage bag, Maya whispered. It was heavy. Lorenzo laughed quietly. Then they left. Outside. The city had gone soft around them. Streetlights reflected across damp pavement. Traffic hummed in the distance. Maya stood near Lorenzo's car. Neither reached for the door. The silence stretched. Different now. Warm. Charged. Lorenzo stepped closer. Maya looked up. His eyes dropped toward her lips. There was no confusion this time. She knew. He knew she knew. Maya's pulse climbed. So naturally, she ruined the seriousness. If you kiss me and you're terrible at it, this is going to become extremely awkward. Lorenzo stopped. His eyebrow lifted. Maya immediately regretted nothing. That is your concern? I have standards. Lorenzo moved closer. How unfortunate for me. Then, he kissed her. Slowly. No rush. No dramatic grab. No performance. Just one careful hand at her waist, and the other against her cheek, as though Lorenzo Moretti, A man accustomed to taking control of everything around him had decided this was something he wanted to ask for without words. Maya melted against him. For several seconds, all sarcasm left the building. When they finally separated, Maya stared up at him. Lorenzo waited. She breathed once, twice, then said, "Acceptable." Lorenzo's face changed. Maya burst out laughing. "You're unbelievable. I've heard." He kissed her again. This time, Maya stopped reviewing his technique. Mostly. The following morning, Maya arrived at the mansion wearing sunglasses. Tessa looked at her. Maya ignored her. Tessa looked toward Lorenzo. He was standing outside holding coffee. Looking suspiciously pleased with life, Tessa looked back at Maya. Maya continued pretending to study the route sheet. "Oh," Maya pointed without looking up. "Don't. I haven't said anything. Your face has." Tessa smiled. Across the street, Nico looked at Lorenzo, then Maya, then Lorenzo again. His mouth curved. Lorenzo noticed. "Nico." "Yes, boss. If you smile." Nico's expression became blank instantly. Maya looked up, saw everything, and began laughing. Lorenzo closed his eyes. His life had become ridiculous. He had never been happier. The investigation tightened. And so did Maya and Lorenzo. They never formally announced anything. There was no meeting, no label, no ridiculous discussion where two intelligent adults pretended they didn't know what kissing repeatedly meant. They simply became them. Lorenzo's hand found the small of Maya's back when they walked. Maya fixed his collar while insulting his taste in ties. He began kissing her forehead when she was tired. She began stealing fries from his plate without asking. Lorenzo learned that this was apparently relationship taxation. He complained once. Maya took another fry. He never complained again. Marco adapted with professionalism. Nico adapted with enthusiasm. Tessa adapted by demanding details Maya refused to provide. And somewhere beneath all the comedy, something real settled between Maya and Lorenzo. Trust. That mattered when the investigation reached Victor Salerno. All evidence pointed toward him. Access codes, authorizations, vehicle logs, financial transfers. Too much evidence. Maya hated it. She sat at Lorenzo's conference table late one afternoon, surrounded by printed manifests. Marco stood nearby. Lorenzo paced slowly. Victor had been suspended pending investigation. Maya kept staring at the paperwork. Something bothered her. "What?" Lorenzo asked from across the room. Maya didn't respond. He waited. She flipped another page, then another. Victor didn't do this. Marco frowned. "Everything points to him." "Exactly." She pushed back from the table. "It's too perfect." Lorenzo walked closer. Maya laid several manifests side by side. "Look at the handwriting authorization stamps." Marco leaned in. "Same initials." "Yes." "Same position, too." Lorenzo frowned. Maya continued. "Victor signs differently depending on the document." Marco looked at her. "How would you know?" "Because I've been staring at his boring handwriting for 11 days, she pointed. These signatures were copied from one master document. Lorenzo's expression hardened. "Someone forged them." Maya nodded. Then another detail clicked. She stood, walked toward the route map, pinned several collection points. Warehouse, transfer depot, distribution center, private hauling yard. Then she stopped. Her eyes widened. "Oh!" Lorenzo moved beside her. "What?" Maya looked at him. "The holiday." "What holiday?" "Memorial Day." Marco frowned. Maya pointed to one pickup record. "This route supposedly ran on Memorial Day." "Yes, it couldn't have." "Why?" "Because that municipal transfer route is suspended on federal holiday schedules." Silence. Maya pointed toward the timestamps. "These records were created by somebody who understands your logistics, but doesn't understand city sanitation." Lorenzo stared at the map. Maya circled 3 facilities. "Whoever did this knew your internal codes, knew Victor's access, knew which trucks moved where. but copied the municipal schedule from the wrong calendar. Marco slowly looked at Lorenzo. Only a small number of people had that level of access. One name stood out. Renato Falcone, Lorenzo's longtime operations advisor. The polished man who had called Maya the sanitation consultant. The man who had watched her hands, her folders, her phone. The man Maya hadn't trusted from the beginning. Lorenzo's expression went cold. Maya saw it. This time, she didn't joke. Renato had been with Lorenzo for 9 years. That betrayal mattered. Lorenzo called a private meeting. Senior men only. Maya was included. When she arrived, she had just finished part of her sanitation shift. She hadn't had time to change fully. Dark work trousers, clean company jacket, hair tied back. No attempt to look like she belonged in a Mafia conference room, because Maya Bennett had stopped trying to prove she belonged anywhere. The room belonged to whoever knew what they were doing, and today, that was her. Several men sat around a long table. Renato was there. Victor, too, invited without explanation. Lorenzo sat at the head. Maya entered. Conversation died. One older associate frowned. "This is the garbage collector?" Silence. Marco lowered his gaze. Nico practically leaned forward. He knew. He knew what was coming. Lorenzo said nothing. Maya looked at the man, smiled, then placed her files on the table. Yes, she sat. That should make the next 10 minutes particularly embarrassing for some of you. Nico coughed into his hand. Lorenzo's mouth twitched. The presentation began. Maya explained the false routes. Duplicate authorizations. Impossible transfer times. Holiday schedules. Forged signatures. She spoke simply. No theatrical performance. No unnecessary technical language. The more she explained, the quieter the room became. Then she placed the final document in front of Renato. A private carrier authorization. Same date. Different destination. Signed electronically from Renato's secure terminal. Renato's expression barely moved, but Maya saw it. There. One flicker. Lorenzo saw it too. Maya continued. Someone had been diverting valuable industrial components, marked for certified destruction, instead of destroying them. They were rerouted through unauthorized waste transfers, then sold through third-party brokers. Millions had disappeared. Victor's credentials had been copied to create the false trail. Renato had access to every system required. But there was one thing Renato didn't understand. Garbage collection. Maya looked directly at him. You built a perfect corporate record. Renato remained silent. But you used the wrong municipal calendar. Nobody moved. Maya tapped the holiday date. That truck could never have made the transfer listed here. Silence. Lorenzo leaned back slowly. Then looked around the table. Gentlemen? His voice was calm, almost conversational. The garbage collector just found the man all of you missed. Maya turned toward him. Your garbage collector? Lorenzo froze. Nico's head dropped. Marco covered his mouth. Maya narrowed her eyes. Would you like to try that sentence again? Lorenzo stared. The room waited. Renato, currently being exposed for a multi-million-dollar betrayal, looked genuinely confused by the direction the meeting had taken. Lorenzo finally corrected himself. Miss Bennett. Maya nodded. Better. Nico lost the battle. A tiny laugh escaped. Lorenzo looked at him. Nico immediately became a statue. Renato's fraud unraveled quickly after that. Once confronted with the documentation, several hidden accounts surfaced. Victor was cleared. Renato was removed from every Moretti operation. There was no dramatic shootout, no ridiculous warehouse gunfight. Lorenzo didn't need one. Evidence destroyed Renato far more efficiently than bullets ever could. But when the meeting ended, Maya stayed behind. Lorenzo stood near the window. She approached. For once, he looked tired. Maya touched his arm. You okay? Lorenzo nodded. She waited. He looked down at her. I trusted him. I know. 9 years. Maya moved closer. Being betrayed doesn't mean you were stupid to trust somebody. Lorenzo's expression shifted. Maya continued softly. It means they were stupid enough to waste it. He looked at her, then pulled her gently against him. No joke, no sarcasm. Maya rested her cheek against his chest. For a little while, the Mafia boss didn't need to be dangerous, and the sanitation worker didn't need to be funny. They were simply two people standing quietly, holding each other. Then Nico opened the door, saw them, immediately closed it. Maya started laughing against Lorenzo's chest. Lorenzo sighed. I am going to fire him. No, you're not. I could. You like him. I tolerate him. From outside the door, Nico shouted, I heard that. Lorenzo closed his eyes. Maya laughed harder, and just like that, the seriousness broke, exactly the way it always did with her. 6 months after Maya Bennett first ordered Lorenzo Moretti to grab a garbage bag, she graduated. The ceremony itself was beautiful. The aftermath was a catastrophe. Because Lorenzo had been specifically instructed, do not make a big deal out of it, Maya had been extremely clear. No giant celebration, no ridiculous convoy, no expensive venue, no turning her graduation into an event requiring security clearance. Lorenzo agreed. Maya should have known better. She exited the university auditorium wearing her graduation gown and stopped. 3 black SUVs waited outside. Maya slowly turned toward Lorenzo. He stood beside her mother with an expression of complete innocence. Maya pointed at the vehicles.
What is that?
Transportation. For WHO. Us. Why are there 3? Security. Maya stared. Then she noticed Marco holding a phone. Behind him, Nico was whispering urgently. Marco ended the call. Maya narrowed her eyes. What did you cancel? Marco looked at Lorenzo. Lorenzo looked at Marco. Maya's eyes widened. What did you cancel? Nico answered before anyone could stop him. The ballroom. Silence. Lorenzo closed his eyes. Maya slowly turned. Ballroom? Nico realized his mistake. And the string quartet. Lorenzo looked murderous. Marco walked away. Maya's mouth fell open. There was a string quartet? Nico nodded. And ice sculpture, Lorenzo snapped. Nico! Nico immediately stopped. Maya stared at Lorenzo, then laughed. She laughed so hard, she had to hold his arm. Lorenzo looked offended. I was celebrating you. With ice? It was tasteful. What shape? Lorenzo didn't answer. Maya's eyes narrowed. What shape, Lorenzo? Nico whispered. Her initials. Maya nearly collapsed. Her mother loved him immediately. Tessa loved the entire situation. Marco spent the afternoon considering another profession. Eventually, they celebrated at Maya's parents' home. Food everywhere. Music, family, friends. Lorenzo Moretti, one of the most intimidating men in New York, was forced to sit between Maya's aunt and an elderly neighbor who spent 40 minutes explaining cholesterol. Maya watched from across the room. Lorenzo caught her looking. She smiled. He raised one eyebrow. She mouthed, personal growth. He shook his head. Later that week, Lorenzo offered Maya a permanent position, Director of Sustainability and Municipal Strategy for Moretti Urban Logistics. Maya read the contract, then looked at him. No. Lorenzo blinked. Again. He should have expected this by now. What? Salary is wrong. He frowned. It is above industry standard. Still wrong. You want more? Yes. Lorenzo leaned back. Maya continued. I also want independent hiring authority. Fine. Community grants. Fine. Training budget. Fine. And I report directly to the board on environmental compliance. Lorenzo stared. You enjoy negotiating with me. Immensely. You realize I wrote the offer. And you realize I'm improving it. Marco stood nearby. Lorenzo glanced at him. Marco immediately looked elsewhere. Maya crossed one leg over the other. And one more thing. Lorenzo sighed. Of course. My relationship with you does not appear anywhere near my compensation review. Lorenzo's expression became serious. It never would. Maya studied him. He meant that too. Her smile softened. Then I accept. Lorenzo stood, walked around the desk. Maya raised one finger. Professional environment. He stopped. Slowly. Maya lasted 2 seconds. Then smiled. Door first. Lorenzo closed it. Marco heard the click from outside. Nico looked toward him. Marco immediately said, "No, I didn't ask. You were going to." Nico sighed. Maya started her new job the following month. She didn't become somebody different. That was important. She still visited sanitation crews, still wore practical clothes on field days, still argued with executives who thought environmental compliance was decorative, still took classes for additional certification, still corrected Lorenzo's recycling mistakes. And Lorenzo remained hopelessly fascinated. Their relationship settled into something warm and ridiculous. He took her to elegant dinners. She took him to food trucks. He bought her flowers. She complained they had unnecessary packaging. He once sent a car to pick her up. Maya took the subway because traffic was terrible. Lorenzo found this personally offensive. She laughed for 20 minutes. One evening, Maya sat on the balcony outside Lorenzo's mansion. City lights glowing beyond the trees. Lorenzo joined her. She leaned against him. For once, everything was quiet. Maya had been thinking. That usually concerned Lorenzo. He could tell. "What?" She looked up. "What?" "You're thinking." "I'm always thinking." Loudly. Maya smiled. Then her expression changed. "I still wonder sometimes." "About?" "This." She gestured between them. "Your world. Mine." Lorenzo waited. Maya looked toward the city. "I know I don't care what people think. Mostly. But sometimes I wonder whether one day you'll wake up and realize I'm never going to become whatever people expect the woman beside Lorenzo Moretti to be." Lorenzo was quiet. Maya continued. "I don't want to become polished into somebody else." His answer came immediately. "I don't want somebody else." She looked at him. Lorenzo shifted closer. "You walked into my life, wearing gloves and reflective stripes." Maya smiled faintly. "You pointed at me." Her smile grew. "You ordered me to pick up garbage. You were standing there." "I know." He took her hand. And somehow, that was the first honest conversation I'd had with a stranger in years. Maya's eyes softened. Lorenzo looked directly at her. "I don't want a woman who fits my world." His thumb moved across her fingers. "I want the woman who walked into it and started rearranging everything." Maya blinked. That was dangerously romantic. Far too romantic. She needed to restore balance immediately. "So you're saying I improved you?" Lorenzo sighed. "There she is." Maya smiled, then kissed him. Weeks later, on a bright Saturday morning, Maya returned to Moretti Avenue. She was no longer assigned to that sanitation route. She no longer had to wake at 5 every morning. She had an office now, a department, a team, a salary that had made her mother stare at the contract twice. But some habits were difficult to break. Maya walked toward number 418. Lorenzo was outside, waiting. Of course he was. She approached the gates. Then stopped. Beside the curb sat one single garbage bag, perfectly tied. Correct location, correct distance from the driveway. Maya stared. Lorenzo folded his arms. "Well?" She crouched, inspected the knot, checked the placement, stood. Lorenzo waited. Maya looked at him. "Acceptable." His face fell. "Acceptable?" Maya nodded. "Months of training. Don't become emotional." I repositioned the bin. I noticed. I checked the collection schedule. Impressive. I even separated the recycling. Maya looked toward the blue container, paused, walked over, opened it. Lorenzo immediately knew something was wrong. Maya reached inside and removed a pizza box. She stared at him. Lorenzo stared back. The box had grease stains. Maya held it up. "You put greasy cardboard in recycling?" Lorenzo's jaw tightened. It was one box. One box? He closed his eyes. Maya looked genuinely wounded. "I thought we'd grown." Lorenzo started laughing. Maya tried to remain offended. Failed. Then he stepped closer. "You know what I thought the first morning?" Maya lowered the box. "That you were extremely lucky to meet me." "No. Incorrect answer." Lorenzo smiled. "I thought you were either fearless or insane." Maya tilted her head. "And now?" "Both," she gasped. Lorenzo caught her around the waist before she could step away. Maya laughed. He pulled her closer. "What did you think of me?" Maya pretended to consider. "Handsome." Lorenzo smiled. "Obviously. And useless." His smile vanished. Maya laughed. "Useless? And you were standing beside garbage doing nothing." "I was waiting for someone." Maya paused. "Who?" Lorenzo looked at her. That expression. Warm, certain. Her laughter softened. "You." Maya stopped. Lorenzo's hands settled gently at her waist. "I didn't know it then." His voice dropped. "But apparently, I was." For once, Maya had no sarcastic response. "Almost." She touched his face. "I love you." Lorenzo became still. She had said it before, quietly, in pieces, through actions. But this time it landed differently. Clear, simple, certain. Lorenzo kissed her forehead. "I love you too." Maya smiled. Then he kissed her properly, and somewhere behind them, the mansion doors opened. Marco stepped outside, saw them, turned around immediately. Nico nearly walked into him. "What?" Marco pointed silently. Nico peeked around him, saw Lorenzo and Maya kissing beside the garbage bins. His eyes widened. Then both men attempted to retreat. Maya noticed. She pulled away from Lorenzo. "Marco." Marco froze. Nico stopped. Maya pointed toward 2 additional garbage bags sitting beside the gate. "Since you're already here." Marco closed his eyes. Nico whispered, "Don't look at her." Maya pointed. "Grab those." Nico turned and started walking quickly toward the mansion. Marco followed. "Hey!" They walked faster. Maya burst out laughing. Lorenzo looked toward his fleeing men, then toward her. "You terrified them. They work for you." "Yes. And they're scared of me?" Lorenzo considered it. "Reasonably." Maya looked offended. Then he reached down, picked up one garbage bag, and handed her the other. She stared. "What are you doing?" "Teamwork." Maya smiled. Together, they carried the bags toward the collection point. And somewhere between the mansion, the sanitation truck, the sarcastic arguments, the suspicious coffee, the impossible holiday pickup, the bad recycling, and the first ridiculous command that started everything, Lorenzo Moretti had discovered something he never expected. The most powerful person in his life wasn't the man who controlled the room. It was the woman who walked into that room, laughed at his reputation, challenged his decisions, respected his heart, and still expected him to know where the recycling belonged. Maya Bennett had spent years being underestimated because of the uniform she wore, the work she performed, and the body she refused to apologize for. Lorenzo never asked her to become smaller, quieter, softer, more convenient. He loved the very things other people had tried to make her question: her ambition, her curves, her pride, her impossible sarcasm, her enormous heart. And Maya had discovered that beneath Lorenzo's frightening name, beneath the mansion, beneath the suits, beneath the men who called him boss, was a man who wanted something unexpectedly ordinary, someone who saw him, someone who wasn't impressed by the power, someone willing to tell him when he was wrong, and apparently someone willing to spend the rest of her life correcting his garbage. Maya slipped her hand into his. Lorenzo looked down, then at her. She smiled. "Tomorrow." His eyes narrowed immediately. "What?" We're discussing composting. Lorenzo stared at her. Maya started laughing. Behind them, Marco and Nico kept walking. Lorenzo looked toward the mansion, then toward Maya, then sighed. Seriously? Maya's smile widened. She squeezed his hand. Oh, very seriously. And for the first time in Lorenzo Moretti's life, being completely, hopelessly outmatched, felt exactly like coming home. If Lorenzo and Maya's story kept you watching until the very end, show some love by hitting that like button and subscribing for more unforgettable Mafia romance stories filled with danger, suspense, unexpected humor, and powerful love. Also, drop your country or city below. See you in the next one.